Hi. So, I had gone scuba diving. I'm very adamant about scuba diving. I know I don't look like the most, I guess the term is normal, but I don't know if that's really something anybody can really say, because what is normal when you really think about it? Is normal what society dictates, or is normal who you are inside? Truthfully, it's both, if you allow it. So I know how I look. I know what I like to wear and where I feel comfortable going, who I feel comfortable speaking with. And personal preference in person in comparison to this technology stuff. Despite the fact I'm extremely shy, I know that might come across as weird. I tend to not be shy when I'm defending. I admit that. I can be a little protective at times. And so, one way to put it. So, I do wear what I wear, where I wear it. I kind of figured this particular video being in a twisted irony. So my nails are white, and for those who know what my scuba diving gear looks like, as well as a little bit else, white, and then I kind of figured the corset with the red, and then scuba divers, I know you know what white and red is. I'm just saying, same with you boaters. And so, and then the other color of my scuba diving gear, which is black and white usually. However, most scuba divers, the gear that they wear in a wetsuit or a dry suit, or, well, usually vulcanized rubber isn't completely black. Sometimes there are different colors for that, but not necessarily. You have to have a heavy-duty job to be looking into vulcanized rubber scuba diving suits, although I do have to say, they're probably really warm when you go in the ocean. You know, where there's ice and stuff, they might be a smidgen warmer than a wetsuit. Throwing that out there when you go in the water. And since I have personally always thought that the most beautiful thing in the world, as far as any scuba dive, I had always thought, and not just for scuba diving, I had wanted this since I was a child. So this is something that I had thought about. And it was, as most scuba divers know, you talk about where you've been scuba diving and where you want to go scuba diving. And I had an instructor. I had multiple instructors, okay? I got 26 scuba diving certifications. So I have had multiple instructors and assistant instructors and classmates and stuff like that. Nonetheless, hi. Bet you didn't see this coming. Maybe you did, I don't know. But you've seen me in a bathing suit, and I mean my actual bathing suit. And so, I have a weird sense of humor, but I am how I am. Anyway, so, when it comes to this particular video thing, I kind of figured, the homage to the colors, the scuba diving colors. And, most gear and stuff really is black. I mean, the fins you can change, kind of like fingernails. Same thing with your snorkel and mask and stuff, but, not necessarily, because a scuba diver is always going to be into the water somehow and pay attention to stuff. So, my personal dive that I thought would be stunning when speaking with other scuba divers is doing a night dive during the aurora borealis and seeing the, I know how hippie this sounds, but those who understand scuba diving, it takes a lot of work. It's a very different way to look at it. Not that there's anything wrong with all hippies. There are those who understand my issue with certain ones. Nonetheless, a night dive and having random patches of just thinly sheeted ice go over. You know, so that way you get an additional contrast to what it would look like during the aurora borealis at night. So not only do you have the different areas of the water that just are clear and completely open, but to also have just random pieces just floating by and changing just the slightest bit from the already light show in regards to the aurora borealis. And then what the color reflections would look like when inside of the water from all of the night animals and marine life, and how that would sparkle and shine, and I was raised by a jeweler, so I know about sparkles and shines, let me tell you, especially being born and raised in New Jersey and going to New York City in the 5 boroughs. Let me tell you, I know shiny. I haven't owned any Movados, but my biological father did work on them. He was certified by the School of Bolivar. And he had his certification for gemology to be able to actually declare what clarity and cut and all that sort of stuff as far as a stone is concerned. So I had no shines. Plus I grew up in the 1980s and 1990s, and I like to dance. So I may have seen some shinies at some dance clubs. Depending which one, a little extra in some locations. That was perfectly okay. Nonetheless, in regards to scuba diving, I thought that that would be cool. My first instructor that I had told about that in a larger way, other than the class for my National Geographic Open Water Scuba certification, but also, you know, with my first, like, kind of one-on-one teaching experience, you know, because he was teaching me about, ironically, dry suits. And I had told him that we were out at the lake, and, you know, it was in between surface interval and instruction, and he looked over at me and he had asked me about what would be my dream dive. And I said, well, there's a few, but I think that that one would be the most beautiful thing to see. Now, I didn't explain that I had wanted to see that since my childhood. That was the only, like, beautiful sort of thing as far as when I was able to figure out certain things in regards to the nightmare that I had as a child. And so whenever I would figure something successfully, like there was a shift in the nightmare, and instead of it being as gruesome as it was, it just kept getting clearer and my life experiences. Anyway, when it got to the point of where it was not sickening is when I started dreaming about what that scuba dive would look like. And I wanted to make it happen. Because what I saw, as far as that portion, I mean, there are people who live in the northern hemisphere where aurora borealis is more common for the winter months. And the dazzling lights and sound. And I thought It'd be cool to see what animals do. Not just the little ones, but I have a thing about, I think that whale sharks are so cute, and then, you know, there's a dive I did where, I know it's difficult to pick up the picture, detailed, but there is that, and that is during a Vandenberg, well, part of my Vandenberg scuba dive, out in the Florida Keys. And so, I had thought that that would be stunning, you know? And a bunch of the divers, you know, they just kind of, you'd look up. Yeah, why not? Why don't you? When you're driving, don't you look around to make sure you know where, you know, situational awareness and stuff? Like, don't you need to know some of that? I mean, like, what are you doing? Why are you getting into scuba diving? And I was explained, you know, oh, I want to see this coral reef, and I want to see, and I do want to see certain coral reefs. But I think that as far as what is now considered the underwater travel system that I came up with the design for, I think many more would be interested in seeing that. I can't be the only one, and I know that, you know, especially where I grew up and who I got to be around as a child, I got to meet all sorts of people. You know, New Jersey and New York and Pennsylvania are they're kind of a smidgen populated. There's like a couple of people in each of those areas, just a couple, just here and there. 1 or 2 million. And so, nonetheless, I kind of figured that I knew that there were divers who, for whatever aspects, weren't going to be able to do scuba diving necessarily. Maybe snorkelers who would be okay to be in a situation at that detail. Not necessarily scuba diving. And then I knew that there were people with different medical conditions here and there. And so, irony. Nonetheless, I also thought about, you know, there are guys in the military, and they're accustomed to certain thrills, but certain aspects of not having the exact same thing every day, yet having the exact same thing every day. And so I kind of thought with, as far as when I was able to actually put it down in a minimum sort of way, of course, as far as the underwater travel system, I thought that, you know, military guys, especially and not saying anything in reference to others, because I know there's law enforcement, fire department, EMS guys that have that kind of adrenaline push. And so I kind of thought that those guys, of course, would be the guys who would be really, really good at their job, because, you know, when it comes to certain things with certain jobs, especially in the military, law enforcement specifically, also, of course, fire department and EMS, but definitely certain military law enforcement guys, like certain guys, those little dots, you know, those fairy-sized little, isn't it funny, they're called bullet points. And so, I have a twisted sense of humor, I know this. Nonetheless, I thought that those guys would actually have fun with a job like that. At the same time of, you know, okay, you know, once they get used to, like, what type of, you know, little fishies are in the ocean. Once they learn that they can get along with some of them, they might not be as scared of the, you know, bullet point fishies. I mean, you are in the ocean. Come on now. I'm just saying. And, you know, obviously you're good at your job. You know, I'm just saying, if you are able to watch and listen, like, you obviously are good at your job. One or the other, even that, it's all good, because you are still good at your job. You survived, when, you know, and thank you for your service, because I really appreciate that. Because I know that there are those who especially understand that. Nonetheless, I thought that with the underwater travel system, that there'd be a bunch of people who'd actually be interested in seeing it. Thought that, you know, some scuba divers who, you know, if they can't scuba dive anymore or whatever, or marine biologists and scientists and stuff, they could do, you know, like a bigger version of an immersed aquarium. Where, you know, you can learn to experience. That's what I thought. I thought that that'd be a really cool idea, but especially because of the feel. And in comparison, you know, those who have gone on underwater boat tours, or the underwater open boat, like the bottom of the boat is open and you can see the stuff when you go, so, you know, just all around. I thought that would be pretty cool. Do you think that would happen? I thought that would be pretty cool. So anyway, and, you know, it's kind of funny with the design as far as my scuba diving gear goes. You know, that ladybug head cover that I had, I wonder if at times, because the little, you know, antennae, you guys have a good one.